Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Last Wave. This is the August 2018 edition. And this is take 2 of this podcast because yesterday I learned that in the year of our Lord 2018, your files can still corrupt. And I also learned last night, playing a video game, save often. So it's been a good week for me and Data, and needing to relearn their lesson that saving often is good, having backups is good, checking your shit, it's all good. Do everything you can, anything you can think of. Control S 20 times every time you even make a click in Premiere Pro. This is your PSA. Just secure your shit, is all I'm saying. Okay, your PSA is over. It's just me this time. So I was under embargo for a game, and I knew I'd want to talk about it, or I'd probably want to talk about it more on this month's podcast, and with the embargo being so late in the month anyway, and all this stuff, but kind of just early enough, I thought, well, I'll just do it myself. That way, I know some major gaming outlets will record something pre-embargo where they talk to people who aren't under embargo and then release it after the embargo. But I thought, let's just be completely safe. I'll just talk to myself. That way I'm not technically breaking embargo or anything, and everything's fine, and it's just me. But then I lost that podcast, so I guess I should have just got a guest anyway. But it's just me today. And that game was Yakuza Kiwami 2 that came out. I'll probably put this one up Saturday and already break the Friday rule, but because I got to get this to patrons a day late, I want to try and keep that gap even for everyone. So this will probably be going up on, actually I didn't think about that. That's probably going up either, I guess September 1st now. Fuck. All right. So this is the September 2018 podcast, but yeah, Yakuza Kiwami 2, it came out yesterday when I'm recording this. And like I was saying, I lost my save file. So I'm currently at 50 hours on my present save file, but I lost about 3 hours of progress when my PS4 had a hard drive issue overnight. I put it in rest. Yakuza Kiwami 2 PSA does not autosave. Yakuza 6 did. It's the same game engine. I don't fucking know. Even the localization producer was out on Twitter being like, yeah, I don't know, fuck it, save often, dude. So, if you follow me, you might be trying out Yakuza Kiwami 2, so which, I will stress, save often. During the main story, the game kind of gives you the prompt to save often, and I think that's part of why I hadn't internalized it yet. So it probably won't be as big of an issue for you when you're playing through the main campaign, but when you're doing all the extra side stuff, post-story, make sure you're saving, maybe once an hour or so, because a lot of the in-game content is grindy, and you'll probably not want to replay it. I did a lot of the bouncer missions, which are kind of a side battle, I was going to say battle royale, but that's a much different meaning nowadays. Just a gauntlet, it's like, here's a mission, run through this section of Kamurocho or Sodenbari and beat up on dudes, which is, there's something about it being organic during the game I don't mind, but when the game is like, okay, here's a bunch of dudes, and there's 3 difficulties for each mission, and there's like 10 plus missions, it gets grindy and gets kind of for me. So I have to redo almost all of those, because I spent 2.5 fucking hours last night, grinding that shit out, because some feeble part of my brain is like, I'll get the platinum trophy in Yakuza Kiwami 2. And I probably won't, but I want to get close. So yeah, reviews up on Game Explain, like Yakuza 6. Derek reached out and asked me if I'd like to review it for them, and as a diehard fan of that series, it's hard to say no to, yes, I would like to play that a few weeks early. So I played it a few weeks early, the review's up. I guess at this point I'll just say links in the description. They're a big channel. It's not hard to find. It's also, I have a playlist on my channel, if you didn't know. It's called Things I'm In. And that's where if I collaborate with someone or show up somewhere or worked on something for like FTCR, I'm particularly less befuddled with, I'll just pop it in there. So it's at the top of that playlist. Check it out. But spoilers, I liked it a lot. I think it's a stronger entry than 6. A lot of diehard Yakuza fans, weren't so into 6 for either story reasons or the lack of gameplay depth, which I get. I still really like 6 a lot, but I find it hard to say that, at least based on gameplay merits, there's no way Kiwami 2 isn't a better game. So I'm real jazzed about that. I'm kind of, I don't know. There's that Fist of the North Star Yakuza game coming out in like almost a month now. I think that's at the start of October. And part of my mind is like, I just need to take it easy from Yakuza, let myself recuperate. There's so many games I still want to do things in. Like 0, I want to do more in. I want to do more of the side content in 5, because 5 has so much shit going on. But I also want to take a break, because I know we're getting the 3, 4, and 5 remasters. And now with Kiwami 2, the localization team has a survey out being like, hey, do you want to see those remasters? What about spin-off titles? And that's obviously meaning the Samurai Sword titles we never got, Kenzen and Ishin. Presumably, maybe there's a new spin-off in the works. But it's like the future is still like seeped with Yakuza. We're now caught up on all the main releases, which is pretty crazy. So you'd think that being caught up would mean, okay, we're good, but I know each one of those remasters that comes out, I'm going to want to re-experience those games. Like 3, I kind of don't remember much of, and 4 was the first one I played, so I especially want to go back and re-experience that one. And no frame tearing on them. I've seen gameplay of 3's remaster. It looks so fucking smooth. It's like, it looks like a whole new game, basically, from how I remember it. I'm just real jazzed about all that. So it's like I just want to play more Yakuza now, but I'm trying to be responsible and be like, I'm going to fucking burn myself out, because I know I'm going to be an idiot and buy all those games all over again. So that's where I'm at. But anyway, Kiwami 2, it's really, really good. It's very solid. I think it's, if you look at the English releases, I think there's 0, I think it's Kiwami 2, I think it's 6, and I think it's Kiwami 1 in terms of quality. Not the order you should play them in, but just like comparing them all on their merits, I think Kiwami 2 is probably the second best Yakuza game we've gotten in a long time. So I'm real jazzed about that. I'm drinking Cherry Pepsi Max, which I'm growing on. And at first I didn't care for it, and I thought I may as well just get Pepsi Max. But Pepsi gave me 3 whole rubber bands to mention them 8.5 minutes into the show, so here we are. That's a joke. But yeah, there's not too much more I can say right now that isn't in the review. Like a lot of Yakuza games, a lot of the post-game grinding stuff isn't for me. Like, I do not comprehend Mahjong. Shogi, I'm kind of getting there with. Fucking poker, I will never understand. So, that stuff's back now, and I think the option to have that stuff is great, but I'm just not good at those games. Yakuza 0 made me like blackjack, though, so I've kind of been digging playing blackjack in Kiwami 2, actually. That's weird, but I think, I don't know, blackjack to me is a good reminder to never ever go into a casino, because I have such an addictive personality, and fuck, man. If I got near a blackjack table, it'd probably go bad. It's so simple. I think that's why I like it. It's just like a simple, hey, or, it's quick. It's boom, boom, boom. At least the way they present it in the game. So, but yeah, I'm feeling really good about it. I'm up to 50 hours now, and I feel like I'm kind of plateauing what I want to do without a guide to help me for things like the golf challenges. But, I'll probably put in another 10 to 15 hours, I'm grinding out the cabaret and clan creator stuff, trying to take down the secret bosses. Then I'll probably kind of call it for a bit and move on to other things. I've been trying to get some other games in August. I want to keep this monthly recap of what I've been playing going. The Shenmue collection came out last week, and I put maybe 3 hours into Shenmue. I have the Dreamcast version because I was a Dreamcast baby, and it feels like the Sega game from the time. I played Sonic Adventure and Jet Set Radio. I've dabbled with Skies of Arcadia a good bit, but Shenmue was the one I never played. Partially because I forget if this is a system error or a disc error. I know it's common, but I have to turn my Dreamcast physically upside down or like to the side for it to read the Shenmue disc. Or disc 1, I should say, at least. And that combined with the D-pad for controls and like the right trigger to run, I'm a very, very modern sensibility kind of video game player, for sure. I could adapt to that, but I didn't want to. So when they announced this dual pack remaster, and to me this is a remaster, that definition is so fucking muddled nowadays. It drives me up a wall. In my eyes, it's a remaster, and they remapped the controls, so like, movement's on the analog stick, and there's still trigger to run, but it just feels better to do it that way. The controls, the physical gameplay controls are still the same, for the most part, as far as I can tell, but they're 16:9, all the audio for the English dub is still horribly compressed. They took out the references to like Coca-Cola. To me, that's always a shame because I think that stuff is funny, but you gotta do what you gotta do to get this remaster out, So, I'm coming to grips with playing that game physically. I feel I'm quite immersed in the little towns and streetways of stuff. I like looking around. It kind of reminds me, actually, I know this comparison gets drawn a lot to a lot of people's annoyance. It reminds me of the first time I played a Yakuza game. Going around Kamurocho in Yakuza 4 and just going down every street and looking at every little detail and like wondering what every shop would be if you can't go into it and stuff like that. All the characters are horrifically voice acted in the English dub. You'll walk up to a little kid and be like, "Hey there.
Hey, mister, will you play with me?"
"Sorry, I'm busy."
"You always say that."
"Okay, bye." But it's got a weird charm to it too. I'm probably actually going to try to play some more of that tonight. It's a game where like making myself sit down to play it is hard because Yakuza Kiwami 2 is right there on my PS4 dashboard. But I am still feeling an itch to go back to Shenmue, and I think that's a really good sign. Hopefully by next month I can have more of a solid opinion on that, because it feels like one of the, as someone who's very into Sega, that feels like one of the games like you gotta at least know where you stand on, and I'm hoping by the end of that I'm feeling pretty good about it. But if nothing else, it's quite interesting, and to see that get a disc release in 2018 is pretty fucking cool. Speaking of pretty fucking cool, August has been a really fucking cool month. Just from like start to end, there's been a lot of stuff that's excited me personally, a lot more so lately than not. The biggest bummer is probably the Spyro delay. I'll maybe talk about that more in a bit. But, at the start of the month, we had the Yakuza 0 port on Steam. I found a site that was selling it for $11 instead of $20, so I thought, fuck it, why not? Great port. I almost found myself wanting to play through it again. Then I was like, well, I may as well do it on my PS4, to get those story trophies I missed. So I put a few hours into that port. It's great. No screen tear. The cutscenes are 60 frames per second. Minor improvements if you've already played the PS4 version, but if you're still looking for a way to get into Yakuza and you got a good enough PC, that might be the way to go. I'd actually maybe recommend you start there unless you care about trophies. It's really solid port. And from there, Windjammers 2 got announced, which is I really like the first Windjammers. I imagine this game will probably just kind of come and be all right, but the mere prospect that there's a Windjammers 2 coming, that's pretty exciting for me personally. I've seen the couple screenshots. They didn't immediately appeal to me, but I think that's maybe a better route than trying to recapture that super 90s kickin' rad pixel aesthetic. And speaking of that, fucking a couple days ago, start of the week, Streets of Rage 4 out of nowhere. What? From Wizard Cube? And what's the other one? Guard Crush Games or something like that? Guard Crush Games. That's another thing where, actually, maybe that's a little opposite to Windjammers, but I feel like maybe that's one where you kind of do the Sonic Mania thing and go for the pixel aesthetic, but flesh it out and give it more depth and texture and stuff like that. Not literally video game texture, but like how Sonic Mania, you put Sonic 1 Green Hill Zone next to Sonic Mania Green Hill Zone, and like in your mind they look the same, but when you put them next to each other, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see where they put a lot more work into this to make it feel completely natural, but be better. And I think maybe that's what I would have preferred for Streets of Rage 4, but we're getting something else, and I've seen a lot of people mixed on their screenshots. I think it looks pretty fucking good. I'm seeing it in motion. I'm happy about it. Only thing I'm not excited about is maybe having to wait, maybe up to a whole year. There's no release date or even platforms attached to that trailer or announcement, but I feel excited for that. It almost got me thinking, well, maybe I should just buy that PS4 Genesis collection so, I can play them Streets of Rage 1 through 3 and, check out that collection a little more. But I've too many fucking games. If I hadn't bought Shenmue this month, maybe I would, but there's just too much shit. I mean, Donut County came out, and that's one I kind of had on my radar a little bit. It's a game where you play as a raccoon controlling a hole, and it's kind of Katamari Damacy-esque, where you move the hole around to like suck in objects, so to speak, and make the hole bigger. And it's kind of that Katamari appeal of that. And I think that's about $13 here in the States. I'm wanting to check that out at some point. I knew it was on my radar, but I had no idea it was just going to come out like that. I didn't know it was this soon, because I think they've been working on that for like 6 years or something crazy like that. So I just always had that in the back of my mind. Into the Breach just came out on Switch. I told myself if I was going to play that game, that's where it would be on. But I was probably safe because FTL, their prior game, took forever to come to like iPad and stuff. So I was like, I'm safe. No, fucking Nintendo is like, yeah, man, by the way, it's out right now. I'm like, well, hell, money. And that's not even getting into all the other stuff. September had Spyro. Valkyria 4 is coming out. I like to support Sega. I never beat the remaster of the first one, so I'll probably pass on that, but I'm real glad that game exists. What is in October? October has the Fist of the North Star game I've mentioned, which I'm still kind of back and forth on. November's got Hitman 2. November now has Spyro, and November has Team Sonic Racing, which has yet to impress me to any capacity. That might be a hope it comes to Redbox kind of game for me, so I can rent it and see what's going on. I want to believe in Sumo, but nothing they've shown so far has seemed particularly compelling or fun looking. So I'm really, really hoping that kind of shapes up, but I don't know. Yeah, so I just kind of use that Spyro remaster, and I'm like 80-20 on the way that game looks, and with that being, they call it a remaster. To me, it's a remake or a reimagining. But when it comes to that, it's basically going to live and die by the visuals and the soundtrack adaptation. But the original soundtrack's in there, so it's like the visuals now, right? And I think a lot of the stages look pretty great. Some stages just look good. But, there's some levels like Stone Hill with the revamp they did to that, and Dark Passage from Spyro 1. I like the way Sunny Villa from Spyro 3 looks. Like, I feel like when they're knocking it out of the park level-wise, they're knocking it out of the park, but some of these character redesigns... When I saw Spyro, it was like an instant click, right? It's like, that makes sense. And granted, there's less to adapt there compared to the abstractness of a lot of other Spyro character designs. A lot of them are blobby, muppety abominations, I don't have trouble admitting that, but when I look at, like, Elora, she was shown recently for the first time, I look at it and I'm like, all of this it makes sense, right? Like, of course, this is how you adapt this character. It's very faithful, but it's just, it didn't give me that instant, like, oh, that's Elora. It was like, oh, that's Elora? Hunter was kind of the same thing, but I was kind of fine with him. Then I heard his voice and some birds started chirping outside my living room. But, we went from, like, fucking old man trying to be cool Hunter to, like, 90s teen 20-year-old something trying to sound to be cool hunter, which like both make sense. I just have such a nostalgic attachment to Hunter's original voice that anything short of the exact same performance was probably going to have me feel weird. But, you know, that's just fucking minor nitpicks at this point. But I don't know. I'm still real excited for it. They have my money on it. You know, I'm going to see how that shakes out. But I wish I felt more... You know, I feel like Crash kind of set the bar a little high, actually, because so much of that felt right. I know hardcore fans, kind of like the way I am with Spyro, I'm sure hardcore Crash fans found plenty of fucking things. I know the collision detection is one of the main things, especially. But, yeah, with Spyro, I'm just not feeling that. And I guess it's because I care about Spyro more. But, I mean, what can you do about it, you know? It's going to come out, that's just how Spyro is going to be, and that's just kind of how I'm going to have to live with it, you know? If they do a Spyro 4, that's how the lore is going to look like, that's how Hunter is going to look and sound like, that's just what I'm going to have to get over and get used to. And I don't think any of it's bad. I don't know. It's just not that instant thing for me, you know? God, I sound whiny. I love it. Refreshing. Pepsi Max Wild Cherry. Not even that wild. I'll say it. What are you going to do, Pepsi? But, I didn't even mention 2 Point Hospital. I have a vague interest in that. It's another second published thing. And that comes out today, tomorrow. You know, it's probably out by the time this podcast is out for everyone. You know, I think it's just fucking cool that Sega got the Theme Hospital guys together and was like, yeah, just do that again, I guess. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. We'll do that again. And they did it again. Yeah, aside from all of that, my hope was to get a video out in conjunction with the Game Explain review on my channel. I've had the video title forever. It's called Yakuza 2 Still Extreme, because Kiwami means extreme. Haha, great title. Ha! Ha ha! But Kiwami 2 wound up taking much more of my time, and I let myself get into an eternal self-stress loop, and I stressed myself out and could only focus on Kiwami 2 in my spare time because I felt like I needed to experience a little bit of everything to write a good review! And I wound up not experiencing everything. Even with 36 hours in, I still didn't touch golf, or the batting cages, or Mahjong, or... I played a little Mahjong for a side story, but you know, there was stuff I didn't even get to, and I stressed myself out way too much. So the Yakuza 2 video, we'll see how that goes. I still need to play more. I'm in like chapter 5 or 6 of the original PS2 release. But basically, I started playing the original Yakuza 2 in anticipation of Kiwami 2 because I wasn't sure if I'd get that opportunity to review it again. And I found out that Yakuza 2 holds up quite well mechanically, even to the later entries on that combat style, you know, like 5 and 0. And it was quite easy to play in comparison to 1. So I wanted to do a video being like, yeah, man, this shit still totally holds up and you should probably play it if you're really into the series. So that's kind of probably the angle that video is going to take. I just got to keep myself motivated on it and not be like, everyone knows Yakuza 2 is good. You know? So that's what I've got to hold myself to. I found the Digimon Digital Card Battle PS1 game on eBay for very cheap, and I haven't really stuck that in yet to get into it, but I miss making Digimon videos, and to put it candidly, a lot of my most popular stuff on YouTube is Digimon related, which I think is great. I always wanted to do Digimon videos, so I'm thinking, like, why don't I get back to Digimon videos? So, we'll see how that goes. I kind of just want to do Digimon World 3, but I still have the disc that doesn't work, so I probably got to eBay a copy of that and hope that disc works, and that'll be a whole fucking thing. The main idea in my head, and I'm going to run this by you guys, this is going to be a short podcast today. This is probably like the final topic, because I decided to rein in and not go fucking crazy about Spyro. Or Yakuza. Yeah, I'm keeping myself limited here, can you believe it? The final idea pinging around in my head, I feel like I got to do this before it gets snowy, here in West Virginia, and it makes driving scary because I did hit black ice like 5 miles from home at the end of last year, and fuck up the front of my car, which is fantastic to do at 5:30 a.m. The thing I want to do, and I have like the basic loose structure in my head, and this is either going to go one or two ways, basically. I asked this on Twitter. Some of you guys who I know will listen to this answered there, and I appreciate those answers. I need to know about explorable malls in video games that have most of the stores detailed and are enterable. That's a word. Little store spaces you can go into and look at everything in there. The main idea is Dead Rising, which does this. And there's The Last of Us. I think maybe it was the Left Behind DLC that did that. I'm not so sure if I've never played that, so I'll see how that goes. But it's kind of a literal dead mall thing, and so I'm not sure if that's something to include or not in this thing. But basically the idea is I think Dead Rising has a really fucking cool mall. And I think no one's really done a video talking about how cool and how like realistic Dead Rising's mall feels, even though aspects of it don't feel realistic. Like a thing that comes to mind is like, I've seen people say, like, it's really weird that there's a little area where you can get like a chainsaw, and like these lawn cutting tools. Like, malls are for toys and clothes. And like, I'm thinking like an hour and a half-ish north of the most dead mall I know, there's a little shopping plaza at the Washington Courthouse area of Ohio, where, if I remember right, at least when I was a kid, there was a STIHL store still. They're a brand that makes lawn management equipment. So I want to do little things like that to be like, actually, this is really not that out of the realm of a possibility for a mall. And part of the idea of this video is to be like, man, Dead Rising's mall was good, but also like compare and contrast it to real malls I know within like a 4-hour radius. And this involves me going to take video footage with my shitty iPhone and just basically finding an excuse to talk about dead malls for about 15 minutes because I have a weird fascination with them. But I want to focus on how Dead Rising's mall is like both a realistic feeling space for the most part. There's obviously fantastical, exaggerated elements to it because it's a video game, but the fact that it can do that and still be a fun place to play a video game in. I feel like you look at how a lot of video games adapt real life locations, like how Watch Dogs 2 adapts San Francisco or something like that. And they make a lot of concessions to try and make the game fun. Like, are these streets fun to drive on? Like, we got to change this, condense this entire neighborhood down to 4 blocks. Like, there's a lot of liberties taken because a lot of the real world wouldn't be fun to play in a video game. And I think it's really cool that Dead Rising has a pretty standardly designed mall. It definitely represents an epitome of the Americana idealization of what a mall can be. This big fantastical place with elaborate fucking things, but it still feels rooted in a reality. And I also want to contrast how Dead Rising was in 2006. Amazon and other online stores and the like hadn't really killed malls yet. So I kind of want to contrast that to where things are nowadays and show that even in the 12 years since that game came out, malls in America are in such a different place. And I also think it'll be interesting because some countries probably don't have like an equivalent to the American mall. Malls were definitely much part of our culture in like the 80s, early 90s, before I was born. That's part of why I think it's so fascinating. It's like something I just kind of caught the tail end of. But it was like a social place. It was the hangout. It was where you went, Friday after school. If you lived in a more metropolitan area and had, easier access to that kind of stuff. So I kind of, there's a lot of dead mall tour videos on YouTube, but I feel like... and I love those. I watch those a lot, much more than I should. If you know me, I have a fascination with these dead malls. My Instagram has a lot of pictures of them. It's MykonosFan, same handle. But, that hasn't been done so much with a video game slant. And I feel like I need to combine these two things for me, dead malls and video games. So I'm wondering if malls of a similar degree of Dead Rising in video games, you know. One that I found in my research was GTA Vice City, which I've never played, but from the screenshots I saw, it seemed a little too sparse, you know, and I don't have a way to get footage of it myself, so maybe I'll try and include it in there as a nod. But yeah, I just want to find a way to mix these two interests I have, into something interesting, and maybe it'll only be interesting to me. Maybe it just comes off as me rambling for 20 minutes with awkward, shaky cam footage and bad gameplay of Dead Rising to make some shitty fucking amateur video documentary. But I'll be happy with that, you know. I just want to somehow try to bottle this like feeling and emotion into a video and throw it out to sea and say, fuck it. So before it gets too snowy, I'm probably going to try to head to, I'll let you research these places if you're curious. They've changed the name back and forth. Near Cincinnati, there's a mall called the Cincinnati Mall, or maybe it's the Fairview Village Mall or something like that. The deadest mall I know. There's a great arcade in the food court, but it is a mall I have almost slipped in unmarked puddles in while walking around because the floor or the ceiling leaks through. Some of the bathrooms have the stall doors ripped out. Some of the bathrooms don't have water running to them on the sinks. Some of them don't, they don't get their soap replaced too often from what I can tell, and their paper towels. Most of the store spaces are empty. Two of the big anchor stores are like the big department stores. They're kind of the main attractions. Bass Pro Fishing and Babies R Us, they've locked the entrances from inside the mall. If you're inside the mall, you have to exit the mall and walk around the perimeter to get into these stores. Like, they don't want anything to do with it. I don't think it's so much a vandalism thing as it is just, I don't know. It's just that dead of a mall. I've walked around in the food court and had tile crack under my feet. I don't think there's a single, restaurant operating in the space. There's a Elder Beerman's or Kohl's or something. I think they still have their mall entrance, but if you look it up, you'll see how desolate this place is. And it's been like this for years. The only sign of life I have ever seen from someone running the place, I've never seen a security guard there. The only sign of life is there is a space some local, school baseball team rented out, in one of the tenant spaces. And they would practice baseball in there. They had, all their little, plaques and things set up in there, I think, and that netting in the back of the store space so they could practice swinging in. And there was a very poorly written English document, printed on a piece of paper and taped to the front of the store, because apparently this mall management can't even contact the people running the thing, saying, hey, if you keep hitting balls out of the store space, we're going to have to evict you. And that's probably a fair thing, but it was written in a very angry, passive-aggressive sense of tone, and with very poor English, and I was just sitting there reading this in awe, like, oh my god, someone does run this place, it's just, up for years up until that point, I just thought no one fucking cared, because, some things in the ceiling seem to be shot out, it's not the best kept after malls. I was like, holy shit. And this is the thing they're going to choose to care about, before all this other stuff. So that was fascinating to me. Another one I want to do is the Century 3 Mall. Probably get some shots of that. It is near Pittsburgh. It's like 15 miles south of Pittsburgh, but with Pittsburgh traffic, it's like 40 minutes or something fucking crazy. But I have a lot of attachment to that mall. It is slowly dying. I think there's approximately 10 tenants left in there. I was taken on a date there a couple years ago. This person had very good ideas for where to take me, I guess. So I went up and visited her, and she took me to this mall. And back then, it was maybe 50% occupancy or something. But I thought it was pretty dead back then. So to see it nowadays, it is bad. There's water damage. They did the cardinal mall sin of having carpet. So it's all dirty and disgusting and not kept after. The entire food section, that's where there's a 3-story area, is now closed off to the public. It is the only place the security guard has ever come up to me and said to stop taking pictures. And I said, well, I want it for memory's sake, because I have emotional attachment to the mall. And he's like, there's plenty of memories online. I'm going to have to kick you out if you don't stop taking pictures. And I was like, okay. So that one's going to be a riskier one. But, also up in Pittsburgh is the mall from Dawn of the Dead. So I want to watch that movie and go to that mall because I haven't been to that one. And also in Pittsburgh, there's the mall that sold for $100 in an auction. I could go on, but I want to try and get these malls in this video and compare and contrast and just have like a weird mood piece kind of thing. And if these last 5 minutes were interesting at all, you'll hopefully like the video. This is all going to come out of my own pocket. I'm not going to take money out of the Patreon or anything for this. It's something I want to do, and frankly, it's been a while since I visited these malls anyway, so it'll be fun for me, and hopefully that'll come through in the final video. That is my big masterpiece plan to hopefully have done before the end of the year, and it'll probably be shoddy with poor production value like all my stuff, but hopefully there's a spirit there that makes it entertaining to watch at least, and maybe it gets traction and inspires someone else to do it, but better, and that'll be probably a better end result for everyone. But like I said, short podcast this month because I don't have a guest. Next month I've got a pretty good idea of who I want to get in here, but I did just want to fucking ramble for a bit, see if any of this landed, get suggestions for video game malls, or if you live in the West Virginia area, or, Ohio or Pennsylvania, or maybe even Virginia, and a dead mall that's kind of not more than like 4 or 5 hours from, say, Charleston, West Virginia, fucking hit me up. Let's see what's going on. Just let me know where they are, and I'll go check them out, scope them out, if I can get out there, I guess. But yeah, that's episode 2 of Last Wave. It's, next month we'll have much more structure. This is like I lost the last podcast I recorded and fuck edition. So hopefully this was entertaining, and sorry, next month's will be better, I promise. But thank you all for tuning in, and catch you next time.